It's crazy to think it's been 20 years since I first laid eyes on Warhammer 40,000 Dawn of War. I still remember my brother setting up a skirmish match to teach me the game, giving me a rundown on every faction, fully anticipating I'd pick Space Marines or Guardsmen, and then I said, Orcs. I want to play as Orcs. Now it's one of my favourite games of all time. If you're new here, hello, and looking for a review of the Dawn of War games in general, I'm happy to confirm the campaigns of every game and the playable factions remain unchanged in Definitive Edition, so please check out the videos I did on the original versions if you can stomach some of my earliest jokes. This video is more about if Definitive Edition is worth the price of admission. If you don't own Dawn of War already and you like the sounds of whatever this guy was rambling about for the past hour, then the short answer is probably. $30 isn't a bad price for 4 games worth of campaigns with a lot of replayability, 9 distinct factions, and more than 100 skirmish maps, some of which weren't part of the original release. But an even better price is $15 for the Anniversary Edition on Steam, still containing all 4 games, and an even better price is less than that for the original copies. These are still a perfectly viable way to play by yourself in the present day, but make no mistake, you're not playing any online multiplayer with the corpse of GameSpy blocking the door, and pre-patch Soulstorm wasn't exactly stable. And what if you do already own Dawn of War on Steam? You've played it before, you like it, but there's always been some little changes you'd want to see to make it even better. That's what we're going to find out on tonight's show, folks! Competing for the grand prize of having this game appeal to them are 2 distinct contestants which I definitely didn't cobble together out of straw just now. The first has always liked Dawn of War as a means to simulate battles in the Warhammer world. They would watch those sweet fan-made cinematic trailers from years ago, loves mods like Ultimate Apocalypse that gives you large-scale battles with every unit you can imagine, and has read more 40k books this year than you have read in your entire life. Our second contestant is a micromanaging powerhouse of RTS gaming who finished Red Alert 2's first mission in the time it's taken me to get to this sentence. They want to see a revival of the multiplayer scene so there's more than 4 people online who can compete with them, has always been more of a Crucible guy, and probably wrote the Dawn of Eldar article all those years ago. To either of these players, in order for this version to be the definitive way of playing the game, it has to win them over in spectacular fashion. Otherwise, it might instead feel more like the game's longevity is held hostage behind a higher paywall. As for me, I personally don't think Dawn of War looks bad even now, or runs terribly, for its vanilla versions anyway. And Relic made the Anniversary Edition only a year ago, so what other reason is there for them to bring out another version? Oh! Because Relic needs money! Yeah, they probably do, huh? I mean, it's nice to see the old Naval Mine logo is back in business. Do you think it's still armed? This remastered intro had a bit of controversy surrounding it upon the build-up to this game, with it getting rightfully scolded for cutting out the Sergeant's wonderful scream. This got re-uploaded with the good old-fashioned audio later, but when I booted up the game on a live stream, I didn't get either version. Just complete silence to let me imagine whatever I liked, I suppose. Definitive Edition's new menu acts like a launcher for each of the 4 campaigns, and it certainly contains both a Dawn and a War in it. This is probably better than every other menu in Dawn of War 1, though that isn't a high bar. And the Ruined City background takes me back to the old promotional images for Dawn of War 1, especially with Gabriel Angelos' lovely mug here. Actually, hang on. Does this mean Gabriel is the default Force Commander again? What about the other factions? Who's the Imperial Guards? This reflects the age of the player base now. I really appreciate the little touch-ups to the models too. There's no drastic remodeling of the units here. You could be fooled into thinking this was exactly how they looked in 2004, so to me it has just the right facelift to keep the cool, goofy, and charming element they always had.
Man, their models look really good now.
They do. Okay, this is the thing, right? Because most of the models seem to have been updated to look really, really good. Why does the Scout still look fucking terrible?
Yeah, some of them look just ugly.
Plus, you can still make your armies as garish looking as you desire. This one I got just from clicking random. I don't know about the unit portraits though. Some level of upscaling seems to have been done on them, much like the Command & Conquer remaster, and while some of them look okay, there's others where I would have much preferred someone had just redrawn them. What's more drastic is the lighting and reflective textures on the environments. I was worried at first that the game was going to look too washed out, but I actually think it works in the right places. Dawn of War 1's colours suffer a bit here, but Winter Assault, Dark Crusade, and Soulstorm hold up well, considering there wasn't much colour for them to lose in the first place. Excluding Carava's flaming hot cheese flavour. This means that one of my favourite subtleties to Dawn of War's art direction, its coloured skyboxes, are still intact as well. Although in other cases, the heavy fog of certain levels has dispersed, which I think makes the levels in Winter Assault look a lot worse. Man, why does every older game remaster remove the fog? It's almost never an improvement. This was likely in the pursuit of visual clarity, which is done leagues better by a much more zoomed out camera. Something every major mod overhaul has had by default for over a decade. The camera used to get a little too intimate with the battlefield, so thankfully each end of the map doesn't feel anywhere near as far apart anymore. And if that wasn't enough, Dawn of War finally has proper widescreen support now. Dark Crusade onwards technically had it, but that usually just meant stretching the entire display across your screen. And frankly, it's been far too long since I've seen these models in the correct aspect ratio. Just don't try setting it back to 4:3. This means that the battle HUD has been sliced up to stay in the corners of the screen, although it can be a little distracting when menus show sign they were clearly made for the older aspect ratios, and when you discover Dark Crusade's campaign menu had these little wings it never told us about. I would have liked a few extra functions or info in this gap between the minimap and the unit panel, and I'm sure the machinima makers out there would have loved a hotkey to turn the HUD off entirely. Does anyone use the term machinima anymore? Speaking of, I really miss the bloody frame that sat around the player details in Dark Crusade and Soulstorm. These buttons just kind of sit awkwardly over the screenshots now, although I think the new images go alongside ones from as far back as Winter Assault in a great way. Oh my god, Necron Lord, look out! There's also plenty of points where the subtitles sit over the cutscenes awkwardly. They could have used an outline or a black bar or something, and there will be moments where something loads in that you would have never noticed off screen before. Regardless, it's a small trade-off for a version of the game that's easier to navigate in the moment-to-moment gameplay, and I think most visual changes are excellent quality of life improvements at best, and only marginally distracting at worst. But Definitive Edition proves there's stuff you can do to the original Dawn of War games that isn't just buying them new clothes and giving Isidore plastic surgery. It's easy to forget the smaller issues with a game you love when you've been playing it on and off for the past 20 years. One of them being the traffic jams caused by units awkwardly trying to shuffle past one another like they're two British people on the sidewalk. Now they phase through one another like two British people in a non-Euclidean nightmare world. This doesn't mean the pathfinding is flawless, and you may get units stuck in the terrain and unable to go anywhere, but in most cases it's a vast improvement over the pile-ups of the original, and honestly the little convoys that form are kind of adorable. Although I'd be lying if I said I didn't have some trouble trying to find units among one another now, and a few cutscenes get real funky with the models colliding with each other. This might be why Dawn of War 1's intro is even more fucked up now.
Where the fuck are you, Gabriel? Where is everybody?
You've also got a few more menu options, such as toggles for the new camera. Why would I want to see less of the map? As well as different options for control hotkeys and the option to turn off chat. Gotta say though, I'd much rather have fully customizable controls, since none of these options ever felt fully right for me, and it would have been nice to have WASD camera control without needing to press shift. Whenever I use arrow keys, I feel like I'm playing Doom. But this whole video has been small fry stuff! What are the grand sweeping changes to Dawn of War for me to get angry about? Are all the Space Marines Primaris now? Did the Pariah get deleted from the game? Do the Imperial Guard now have a silly name? Boreal is no longer bold. No! Definitive Edition seems to just be the final version of Soulstorm for its skirmish mode, while the campaigns retain their respective gameplay iteration for each expansion. Since that data is still in the files, it would have been cool if we could have chosen a roster setting that lined up with the other expansions for skirmish, switching on Winter Assault mode to make hordes of Terminators, or even the launch version of Dark Crusade when broadside battlesuits came in groups of 3. But for bigger changes? No, everything is the same as it ever was. Every unit, every mission, every voice line remains untouched, although it's worth noting that several unused lines for unit-specific callouts have been restored, meaning your leaders and builders will say something when they're under fire, and honestly, I'm just happy that adding command squad units doesn't override the general's voice anymore.
It will be my honor.
What do you require?
Alright, moment of truth.
I will do what you ask.
They fixed it! Let's go! Although, it does also mean that you'll hear the death noises and battle lines of the Soulstorm racers from across the map for some godforsaken reason, and there's a few cases where certain sound effects are way too loud. And oh yeah, since they've touched so little, this means Soulstorm is still a buggy mess. I had a campaign mission crash on me upon completion. Guess I gotta play it again, like my own Boulder of Sisyphus. But don't worry, Boreal is bold in the actual gameplay. Oh, thank God. I also found that, despite a few issues closer to launch, the auto-match feature for online play worked fine for getting me into games with people far better at the game than me. With my sample pool of precisely 2 games, I have concluded the multiplayer tier list looks something like this. The lobby browser still works the same though. But while I'm here, I will say it's always bothered me that player set teams hasn't been the default when nobody I know uses the other options willingly. The final major point to mention is the 64-bit support that Definitive Edition has. Beyond every visual overhaul and gameplay tweak, this is probably the biggest selling point for this version of the game, considering we don't know if the originals will be compatible with future operating systems. This will also presumably make modders' lives easier in the future, and some mods do currently work with this version of Definitive Edition, though others are still being worked on to get them updated. I think both our contestants will appreciate that. So who has gotten the most out of Definitive Edition? Well, considering the aesthetic changes are minimal compared to its gameplay and quality of life ones, tonight's contest has a pretty clear winner. It's me. That's right, me. I win. They made this game for me! From what I can tell, Relic's priority with Definitive Edition wasn't to reimagine the game or modernize its gameplay and story beats, but rather to preserve a refined version of the game we remember. Sure, the screenshots you'll grab from the post-match freeze frame won't look great due to all the models clipping, but I can safely move my tanks and infantry together without them awkwardly trying not to run each other over. And yeah, I'd have loved to see this game launch with a rebalanced multiplayer so the Eldar get knocked down from their S stands for smug tier of skirmish dominance. But I'm just happy they didn't backport Soulstorm's version of the factions to the older campaigns, so I can at least enjoy my Ogre and Spam and Land Raider Quartet in the original versions. I've gone on record saying I didn't feel Dawn of War needed a remaster unless it was to make the lives of modders easier, because I love so much about these games, even their ugliest bits. I dreaded the idea of this game getting a bland, boilerplate remake where its art style is gutted and every ounce of creative liberty was erased, in exchange for a homogenized Warhammer game to match the latest edition that looks just like everything else you can already buy. Contestant A probably would have loved this, but I honestly like Dawn of War as a game more than Warhammer as an IP, so I would have been devastated if all the design and unit choices that made me fall in love with the game were redone to conform to the modern canon. No, this game is from 2004. It is a time capsule of 4th edition, it has every little blemish, quirk, and canon-breaking mistake I remember, and I wouldn't have it any other way. Not to mention the best possible commander characters are chosen as their faction defaults, and that makes me so goddamn happy. It's like they read my mind for every little restoration I've wanted for years. But is this worth buying compared to the second-hand approach I mentioned earlier? While the future-proofing via 64-bit support is already a strong reason to get this to keep up with newer mods, and the multiplayer scene's probably going to migrate over for the same deal, the only way I can unanimously recommend this is if it stays supported in the future. Compare it to Age of Empires 2 Definitive Edition, which did a great job of preserving the game's art style and maintaining the game's meta with balance patches to make it feel all the more timeless. They did fuck up the chat lines though.
Wood, please.
Multiplayer balance hasn't exactly been perfect throughout the years, so bringing this game back into the fold is the perfect time to revisit these units and make a couple adjustments to even the playing field. But hey, given they already released a patch to fix some smaller issues while I was making this video, then maybe they'll actually do a balance overhaul someday. If the weird bug where the Ultramarines on the Titan mission becoming Blood Ravens is never fixed, then I can live with that. But the bug where some units won't complete jump orders properly and teleport back to where they started, that's a much bigger deal breaker. And if we get no more updates past the first month of release, paying double for a more broken game that has loads of tiny issues here and there isn't excusable. Oh, and you can still add custom badges and banners. That's important.
What's that?
It's naughty.
You zoomed in and I was like, wait a minute, I don't recognize that flag. What the fuck is that?
With this said, the 30% discount for folks that already own the game is a great way of sweetening the deal. I already think $30 is a reasonable price for the entire Dawn of War package, so to get it for even less is brilliant. You didn't need to do that, Relic, but I appreciate it. Especially given how expensive newer games are these days. I'm paying a premium on this ape! I've seen many of my favourite games of yesteryear get remasters or remakes of some kind, and very few of them utterly supplant the original. And Dawn of War Definitive is barely, nearly there, but to cross over the threshold it needs to live up to its name. Definitive. I don't expect or even ask for new content for this game, to be honest, although we still only have one 3-player map, that's crazy to me. But to make this name stick, there should be more than just some reflective water textures and a zoomed out camera. There should be more than the collision being removed from allied units to assist the pathfinding tweaks. There should be more than relabeling the game manager to mods and future-proofing the game to make future mods more stable, but these make for a damn good start, forming the foundation to create the best possible version of Dawn of War 1. It's just missing a few more pieces to finish this masterpiece. And the first one should be to retcon General Stern's death. Like, come on, how do you make a character this cool and dispose of him after one game? This isn't a Boba Fett thing, where the mystery is what made the character and having him come back was self-defeating. No! Stern's character and design and dialogue was implicit of an individual who stood out from other generals and synergized with Dawn of War's take on the 40k universe. But wouldn't that take away one of Gorguts' achievements in killing Stern? He never did it anyway! Dark Crusade made the Winter Assault Eldar campaign canon! So if you're gonna have this big green lug come back in everything, you could have also had a grudge-holding, grizzled Stern hunting him down, because these two have fought on a planetary level before and he might be the most qualified guy for the job. Hang on a minute, Gorguts looks different in this shot. What is this from? I hope you'll give me some credit for having a game show gag here and not using a single song from Deltarune Chapter 3. That game's music's gonna be in every YouTube video for the next 10 years. Please note that some points in this video may be out of date due to updates, which will be a good thing. Hopefully. Next up on the channel is Vampire the Masquerade Bloodlines, which there is a preview of, available for free on my Patreon page. In the meantime, here's the Q&A. Are you a furry and why not? Maybe I shouldn't do the Q&A this time. What got you into the strategy gaming space? It was finding out about Age of Empires 2 on my brother's PC, then trying Dawn of War after that got uninstalled, and playing Command & Conquer on a PlayStation 1 demo disc. After that, for me, strategy was there to stay. Have you ever played A Bard's Tale? I got given a copy for the Xbox a while back, but sadly I've not played any of the PC ones. What is one of the best pen and paper RPG stories you've experienced? Secondhand stories are fair. Then what's the worst? I think the best came from a game of D&D that I ran for some friends of mine. And I know that sounds rich, like, oh, your favorite pen and paper story came from a game you ran. That's not the bit that was important to me. It was more the raw experience of being able to play a long-form RPG game with a bunch of friends and reach it to its very conclusion. The players were invested the whole way through, they were doing things that really surprised me, and it all came together in a really great way where, like, that kind of reinforced my friendship with those people. I was so glad that I got to play a game like that. The worst experience was a little bit of the inverse. It was a game of Death Watch I played online where I knew one of the players and vaguely knew the game master. I rolled up my Crimson Fist character, got introduced to the others aboard this battle barge. Then one of the players' apothecary character had this lol random quirk where, like, if he heard anyone in pain, he would try to heal them. So he heard that a random serf on the ship was in pain and tried to barge through multiple walls of the ship and in order to try and get to this serf. And we had to spend the entire session just trying to restrain this apothecary player, and nothing happened the entire way through. It was non-lethal combat with 9 players. It was awful. I didn't come back to the game after that. If you had to rewrite one aspect/part of a story in Warhammer 40k's universe, what would it be and why? I think I made myself clear. If you could voice act for one character, who would it be? Oh my god, that's a hard answer. You know what would be funny though? The Dawn of War 4 tutorial. Hit me up, Kingsard, I'm ready. How do you feel about how Games Workshop's design language has changed since 4th edition-ish? Design is a very broad term, and a lot has happened since 4th edition. If we're talking tabletop gameplay, I've not played enough of 10th to have a concrete opinion, but I do find games flow a lot better than they used to. I don't know if that's due to rules changes or just who I'm playing with though. If we're talking storytelling and world design, I'm ambivalent. I've come around to new Necrons, and I'm happy stuff from earlier editions got to have some limelight again after all these years. I just don't care for the story. What is your current, at this moment in time, editions be damned, favourite 40k army? It's still the same answer as before, Imperial Guard. Why yes, I do eat my Pringles ready salted, how could you tell? I did recently play Tyranids though, and that was a lot of fun. Have you ever tried any of the Earth Defense Force games? I did a long time ago at a friend's house, but I don't remember which one, sadly. It was fun killing bugs though.
The only good bug is a dead bug.
You get granted 5 spells to use for life. What do you choose? Okay, well, I'm gonna limit this down just to 5th edition D&D, otherwise the nightmarish number of possible combinations would be way too much. Assuming that I get these back after a long rest, animate objects, teleport, guidance, locate object, because I'm always losing shit, and my last one would be true polymorph. When I become old and frail, my new retirement plan is going to be to turn into a dragon. Would you think it's a good idea for the Tyranids to be in Dawn of War 4 for stress proving, for modding, / having bigger battles like the No Limit mod? I think Tyranids would be a good idea because they are cool. What are your thoughts on the current state of the lore, and do you have any predictions on what Games Workshop could be planning? As I said before, I don't care for it. I never liked Primaris, cool armor though, and I think the only way I'm gonna find the new story interesting is if it does something to completely shatter the status quo of the setting. Which I also don't want. I like the setting as it is. I don't really know what Games Workshop are planning, but I expect that things about the setting are gonna get sterilized. Not removed, not censored, but rather they're going to avoid shining light on the brutal and uncomfortable side of the setting to make it more marketable. Warhammer's gotten bigger in recent years, and I bet GW wants it to stay that way. Thank you to all the patrons and channel members who have been supporting me, with an extra special thanks to my Baneblade tier subscribers, Adiros, Alexis Athena, Cam Plays Games, Carbon Green, Casey, D, Demon Xenomorph 1987, Dioma D's Nuts, Epsilon, Gorgeous Freeman, Obamna, Raziel Martellus 96, Seth Mon Gaming, Watcha, Witcher 122, Whiskey Hero, and Warlock Scrack.